A spirit walker is one who walks in both worlds, meaning the physical world and also the world of spirit. And essentially, I am like the translator. I was at a 4-day shamanic retreat. We had this naming ceremony, and I remember specifically thinking, there is no way, like, this is ridiculous. I looked in the mirror and I said, Iena, out loud. Right before the naming ceremony, a teacher, when we got to the thing, she was like, honey, that's your new name. And then Spirit Walker came through during the ceremony itself, and I did legally adopt that name too.
Welcome to the Awaken Magazine podcast, where we feature inspiring leaders who are helping our world awaken to love. I'm your host, David Trotter, and today I want to share with you a fun and passion-filled conversation with Iena SpiritWalker. She's a spiritual business transformation catalyst. And in this conversation, Iena shares with us how to take your spiritual gifts, the things that you've been cultivating, and create what she calls a soul-aligned offer, something that's not only going to generate impact in the world, but generate income for you and your family. We also talk about the most common roadblocks, the things that are holding back spiritual entrepreneurs from really having a successful business, things like mindset, trauma, and even past life trauma. She leads us through a short meditation where I got to tell you, I had some vision of my great-grandfather that I knew about, but it came to me in a way that was so profound. It was really a powerful moment in our conversation. And then we talk about how your pricing needs to be in alignment with the value that you're bringing to the table. And it was very, very helpful. We may even talk about something that she calls the sphincter effect, which was a fun part of the conversation as well. So, hey, if you're not already subscribed to the Awaken Magazine podcast, be sure to do that on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Click subscribe, rate and review the show. That's an easy way to help us spread the word about all the great interviews that we're releasing here each and every week. All right, let's dive into this conversation with Iena SpiritWalker. Well, Iena, thank you so much for taking time to join us today. It's great to be with you.
Hello, I'm so grateful to be here, David. I'm so excited to share all the fun, juicy stuff that we're going to talk about today.
Of course. Okay, I want to start by talking about this name, Spirit Walker. Iena SpiritWalker. What does that name mean to you to be a Spirit Walker, and how did that name come into your life?
I love that question. So, it's my understanding, I've been told that a spirit walker is one who walks in both worlds, meaning the physical world and also the world of spirit. And essentially, I am like the translator. I'm the translator. I bring the messages from the spirit world to this physical plane. And it came about, believe it or not, I was at a 4-day shamanic retreat. There was actually a woman that I studied with her for ultimately 15 years, and she ran shamanic retreats every year. And we had this naming ceremony, and I remember specifically thinking, there is no way, like, this is ridiculous. There's no way our spirit name is going to come through. And it was a super hot weekend. It was the summertime. It was like 100 plus degrees, and we're out in the sun. We're banging drums. And in between things, we have a few moments to grab a drink of water or pee or whatever. And I ran back to my room, and I'm like drinking some water and slapping some deodorant on. And I looked in the mirror and I said, Iena, out loud, right before the naming ceremony. And it was one of those moments where I looked around, like, did anyone else hear that? No, I was completely by myself. And yeah, so then I told my teacher when we got to the thing, she was like, honey, that's your new name. And then Spirit Walker came through during the ceremony itself, and I did legally adopt that name too.
Wow, amazing. And so there was a bit of skepticism, like, I'm not quite sure. But then, boom, you're just looking in the mirror and there it is.
Yep, doing the deodorant and Iena, and I'm looking myself in the eyeballs. And yeah, skepticism, you guys, I hear spirit, but I also often am kicking and screaming while I'm doing the things I'm supposed to be doing. And that certainly was one of them for sure. And names have resonance, names have energy. And there are so many different facets of our culture and other cultures that change our names to mark a specific event in our lives. For example, it's very typical for women to take the man's last name when they get married. That marks when they became the wife and the part of the pair. There are also other religious groups that also have ceremonial moments where they change names as well to mark that specific time point. So I was in my 20s when I changed my name, and there was a lot of resistance around it with my family. But the way that I dealt with it was, if someone addressed me with my birth name, I acted like I didn't hear it, like they were calling somebody else. They eventually caught on.
Oh my goodness. Wow, what a transition. Okay, I want to go back in time to hear about a bit more about your own awakening to consciousness, mindfulness, spirituality. Did you grow up in a home that had some sort of faith or spirituality within your upbringing?
Oh, well, my family was kind of like typical Methodist. We did which is a sector of Christianity, and we did the obligatory Sunday church visits, but there wasn't really anything practiced in the home beyond that. And I just hated being there. It was really hard for me to sit still, and it didn't feel right for me. And so I think my parents told me when I was 16, I could opt not to go to the Sunday services. And I was like, hell yes. Like, I was counting it down for years, like, okay, but I've only got 400 more times that I have to go, and then I'm done. So yeah, that was how I grew up. And then what happened is, looking back, I had a sense of connection to animals, and that's kind of where my I would say my craft maybe started. I would disappear for hours at a time, and I would go talk to the animals in the woods. I would go climb in the shed, and there'd be like a little hole in the floor, and I would reach my skinny little arm down and pull the mice out, and I'd be like talking to them and
No
petting them
way.
and as a parent now, I'm like, holy shit, like if my parents knew what I was doing. And then they would want to go, and I'd let them go, and I'd fish in for another one and talk to another one, and I'd bring them berries and fun things. And, looking back, it was sort of a connection for me. As a child, I connected more deeply with animals than people. And the reason for that, I believe, is because animals don't try to mask who they are or what they feel. They're very honest.
Mhm.
And for example, human beings, if you say, how are you doing? Someone will smile and say, I'm fine. But you can feel that energy. There's like some angst underneath. Animals never did that. So it felt safer for me as a child to really connect with them and be vulnerable to them. And there were so many animals in my childhood. We had a saw-wheat owl that was rescued that had a busted wing that was flying around the house at some point, and I was always bringing my mouse friends in, and which always, by the way, got away, and my cats ate them. But that was
An owl and mouse do not seem like a
oh
good
yeah, oh yeah.
combination.
There was always something. I would find, I'd be walking along a driveway, for example, and I would hear help, and I'd look down, and there'd be like a baby possum with no mother, and I would scoop it up. My parents would be like, "How did you find that?" I'm like, "It was talking to me." And so that's how things began. And then as an adult, things really progressed. Actually, I was married, I had small children, and our house ended up being haunted. I didn't really know exactly what that was, but there was a cat that one of our cats was staying in one spot in our bedroom closet, and she was wilting away to nothing. She wouldn't eat. She wouldn't take sustenance. And I took her to the vet. I did all the things. We did all the testing. There
Mhm.
was nothing wrong with her, but she would not move from that spot. I was hearing disembodied footsteps. My son was screaming and throwing tissues at something I couldn't see. I mean, there was a whole thing. It was like a whole. Maybe I'll write a book about it someday. And so I found, by the grace of, divine, these women who were able to clear the house and really clarified some of the feelings that I had in different parts of my house.
Hmm.
And also, well, in case you guys are curious too, I was told there was a porthole in the closet, the bedroom closet where my cat was laying, and she was protecting the family and absorbing the negative energy. And the second those women closed that portal, my cat got up and walked away and never laid there again, and she totally recovered. It was
No
insane.
way.
And I was like, okay, there's something to this shit. This is crazy. And I I felt a connection to what they were doing, but I also kind of felt like it was a magic trick too. And I don't mean in a deceptive way, just like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. How does this
Hmm.
happen? That's where it really began for me. That's where my searching began, I would say.
Hmm. And through that, did you start researching things through books or classes, or how did that begin to unfold for you?
Yeah, so I did. I started reading like crazy, and CDs were a thing at the time. So I was doing the CD, it was James Van Praagh and John Edwards and Sylvia Brown. I was listening to all the meditations and chakra healings and all those things. But at some point, you get to a point where you need someone else to guide you. And I was kind of in that, I didn't know where else to go. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I was thinking, I really need someone. And I was at a local health food store and I found a little flyer of this woman who did a year-long, essentially it was like a psychic development course, and you get certified as a interfaith minister, et cetera, et cetera. And this is where the shamanic stuff came in too.
Hmm.
And I thought that was cool, and I picked it up. And at some point after the haunted house got cleared, we were like, screw this, and we sold the house and we went traveling in a motorhome for a year. I forgot all about it. I was doing my meditations while we were traveling, all the things. And then at some point, we got a house and we started unpacking, and that flyer just popped back up again. I I don't recall even packing it, but it was time. And so I called her and I went on this journey with her. And like I said, I ended up spending 15 years of study with her. And
Wow.
it's been amazing. And yeah, there is a point where we can no longer self study. We need a guide. And you need someone who's been there before, no matter what
Hmm.
you're searching for. So when you're looking for someone, you need someone who's been in the place where you are stuck so they can get you to the other side. It's like hiring a tour guide when you're in a foreign country.
Hmm.
You need to, you want them to know where they're going.
Yeah, yeah. At
Yeah.
what point did you then sense that you were called to help other people?
Ooh. Well, what started happening was, first of all, my teacher started calling me for readings. I was like, oh shit, there's something to this, because I don't think she was doing that with other people. She was calling me for readings. And the other thing that was happening too is probably the reason I got the name Spirit Walker was mediumship was coming through very easily for me. And, it's a weird phrase to say it was like riding a bike, but it just came easily to me. So I knew there was something greater than me. This certainly wasn't mine, but
Hmm.
I was the hollow tube or the vessel or the straw, whatever we want to call it, that this information, the healing was coming through. And I knew that was for other people. And I really wanted to be a part of that.
Hmm. Now, were you? I hear you had young children, and obviously they're getting older. Did you have like a job at the time, or were you focused on kind of kids and household, or how did that career integrate?
So I was a stay-at-home mom, but I also, one of the things, because I was a mom with young kids, I started intuitive development classes for kids, which was super fun. I had that at my class and or at my home, and I did that when we lived in New Jersey. I did it when we lived in Hawaii. It was just a really fun thing to do. And kids are so, I want to say, easy to guide. Adults, we have so much crap that we've gone through, and kids are just like, oh, this is it. Okay, cool. So yeah, so I was a stay-at-home mom, but I focused on, and my kids, when they were younger, thought it was so cool that I could talk to animals, and we had these crystals, and I played this drum, and all the things. And then at some point they were like, you're weird, that's enough. Just like,
Did they opt
yeah.
out when they were 16?
I think sooner, probably sooner than that.
And what do they think now? Like, what do they? How do they see you?
I think it's a mix. I think it's a mix. There's that phrase, the older you get, the wiser your parents get. And I think it's
Right.
sort of that you sort of reflect back and go, oh shit, they knew something. Or, you just sort of have an appreciation for it. I can't speak for my kids. I know that I'm a bit of a black sheep. I'm down with that. They love me for whoever I am. I don't think that they brag to their friends that their mom's like a healer and a psychic. I highly doubt that even comes up. And that's okay. And honestly, and when my kids were younger too, if there was an issue, like if they were sick and they needed healing, they would request that my friend who, well, she became my friend, but the woman who was my teacher, work on them. So they were open to it, just not for me
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I was mom and I didn't know shit. But, you know, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Um, all right. I've got all these stories of my own kids, you know what I mean? And the things that I go through and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
they think I sent my daughter an audio channeled message the other day because I was in meditation and it came through so clearly a message that I saw of her and, this whole scenario. And
Yes.
I thought, oh my gosh, I got to record this real quick. And I sent it to her in this moment of channeling it. And, I was like, I'm not sure. And she played it with in front of a friend, and her friend was like, whoa, your dad is a nut job. But it was dead.
I was
I will say it was
misinterpreting the
dead on.
whoa.
It was dead
Okay.
on. It was dead
Okay.
on the
All
situation.
right.
So,
That is
anyway.
really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so now
Now.
having provided this type of service and offering to people for many years, you have shifted to now being really a coach of people who are conscious and spiritual business owners.
Right.
At what point did you feel like you wanted to make that shift as well? I'm curious how that unfolded for you.
Beautiful. Well, it's interesting because when you work with enough people and I've been doing this 27 years, you see ebbs and flows, and the people you work with often have like very similar issues.
Hmm.
And that's sort of like the wavelength, I call it, of what humanity is going through. And with spiritual business, they also evolve with you. So I started out essentially with psychic development, and then I started working with animals. And I also worked with people with trauma, specifically women, because I'm a survivor of domestic violence. And then as you pay attention to these, I don't even like the word coincidence because
Hmm.
it's all relative. However, but when you start paying attention to the people, let's say, for example, that you're attracting that want to work with you,
Hmm.
I was attracting women who are in spiritual entrepreneurship who were feeling stuck. And what we did was we just focused on them. We focused on them. We focused on them. And suddenly they're like, shit, my business is taking off. These people are calling me. I got this opportunity. Somebody reached out. I've got this podcast. And, it was kind of, it was crystallizing like, oh, okay. This is what is needed of me now. So this is where we are.
Yeah, so it just kind of happened organically, is what I'm hearing with the people that were coming to you, that were being
For sure.
attracted to you. A couple
Yes.
things. One, what are the biggest challenges that these individuals, these conscious or spiritual business owners, are coming to you with? Like you said, there's a commonality there, and then also I do know that you primarily work with women, so I'm curious how that came about as well.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So, um, commonalities. Generally, they're women who are spiritual and holistic practitioners, and they feel stuck, and they
Hmm.
feel that yearning, like in their heart and in their gut. They know they are meant for something bigger, and their
Hmm.
business is just completely stalled out, and they're super frustrated, and they feel like they're dragging a dead weight around. And I've been there too, and as we say, it's an inside job, right? So you work on yourself, you heal your stuff, and then suddenly your business, your life experiences, everything expands. The reason that I work with women is, firstly, I believe the women are the healers of the planet, and there's a lot of feminine energy rising right now.
Hmm.
And secondly, very similar to your goals, David, I want to have a ripple effect of healing on the planet. And I know the biggest way that I can make an impact is to help people who are healing and helping others. That's how we create this ripple effect, this web of healing, and this upgraded consciousness. You help people who are helping others, or at least that's what my choice has been.
Hmm. Hmm. So I want to go back to perhaps the beginning of the process of someone who is feeling called to help. Because there are a lot of people who listen to our podcast that maybe they are working that full time job, or they're a stay at home mom, or maybe their kids are going to high school, and college, and they got more time on their hands. And they're going, man, I really feel called to help other people. I have this gift, I have this talent, I have this intuitive ability.
Hmm.
And how do they turn that thing that they're experiencing into a product or a service? Yeah, I believe you call it a soul aligned offer. How would you
I love
coach
it.
somebody who's listening to go, how do I do this? I feel like I should just give this away. I should just be doing this for my friends for free. This feels weird to charge for this. This feels awkward. Help me, Iena.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for saying that because there are a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs and healers who feel like it's a gift and they should be giving it away. And being an artist is a gift too. Singing is a gift. And spirit knows you got to pay your bills, you know. And the problem is when you are, and one of the things I talk to my students is when you don't have a price. I know I'm going a little off topic. I'll come back, I swear. When you don't have a price that is energetically aligned with the magic that you offer, the transformation that you offer your clients, it's misaligned and you're going to attract the wrong people. You're going to attract people that don't do the work. You're going to attract people that don't show up. You're going to, and what happens then is they talk shit about you and say that you don't, your service isn't helpful. And it really was because they weren't doing the work. And to go back, well, your original question was, oh, how does someone turn their passion into a business? One of my superpowers is I do something called a paradigm shift healing with my clients and also my students with the group course. And the paradigm shift healing is really essentially I heal what's holding them back. I extract their soul aligned offer, and that includes how long it is, how you're going to deliver, and what that energetic price match is. And then from there we have a goal post, sort of. We have something to shoot for, and then we can begin working on what needs to be healed to get to that, because often we have to reset our nervous system to accept that high ticket offer, etc. In general, if it's something that someone wants to do from home and you're just trying to get some semblance of what this is going to look like, I would say look at where your biggest struggles have been in your life and what has brought you through and work backwards from there. Because your clients essentially are going to be where you used to be in some form. You have to teach from what you know and from what you've experienced. And that's it. I'm not going to teach car repair. I don't know shit about that. So, same thing is true for healing and etc. You have to teach what you know and where you've been. And when you get to the other side of that, you can look back and say, oh my gosh, this is really what helped me. I know I can help others. And they say you only need to be 10% ahead of the people who are stuck where you were before to guide them out.
Yeah. One of the things that I see oftentimes among people who are new in the space is a feeling of, I don't know enough. I don't have enough experience. I should really get another certification. Well, now, no, I probably need another certification, How do you help someone process? You said just 10% above, a little bit beyond where
Mm-hmm.
somebody's at. How do you help me feel like, no, I can do this?
Right. I love that. It's like I heard a phrase recently, someone called it serial certification. It's like, and I do get some clients that are like, I just need, and I'll say, okay, you have to integrate what you've learned now. You can't just like get this certification and jump into something else. How are you going to process it? And my biggest takeaway and advice for people who are still feeling like they need more certifications is just to put the credit card down. Okay. Work with what you have, integrate it within yourself, because often we learn things and we quote unquote know the things, but they're not integrated inside of us. And until we can fully embody the energy of our experience and our knowing, we're not going to attract the people that need it. And I can tell you, I mean, I have a couple certifications from like 20 some years ago. Not one person in 27 years has ever asked me for my certifications. Not one.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
People don't
Yeah.
care about it. They want results. They want you to get them to the other side.
Hmm.
Does that make sense, David? Did I
Oh,
answer
yeah.
that
Oh,
question?
no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool.
Okay. So one of the things that I'm hearing from you is there's this mystical component of you that's able to help people, kind of draw it out of people, their soul aligned to offer. But then I'm also hearing this side of you that feels very practical. And so, and not to say that the mystical isn't practical, but there are two, kind of different aspects of
Yeah.
the coaching process. How do you
Right.
help people integrate those two things?
The biggest thing that I like to impress upon people that I work with is that we are divine beings in a meat sack. We all we all have one foot in spirit and one foot on the physical plane, and we are integrated creatures. And the way to really excel in this life, in this business, etc., is that we need to combine nurturing the divine part within, the energetic, the magic, all those amazing aspects of us that are larger than life, larger than this physical life, with practical tools and techniques and training your monkey mind and nurturing the meat sack, moving your body, making sure you're feeding yourself the proper food, making sure you're hydrated. Because if you don't, you can use the analogy of someone driving in a car that is running out of gas and hasn't had an oil change in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's eventually it's gonna break down. And
Mm-hmm.
so we need both aspects of that. We need a driver who can see properly and has the license. And we also need a vehicle that's strong enough and resilient enough to do the tasks that you came here to do. And make no mistakes, you have come here with several purposes, something that you have come to offer this planet. And if you don't take care of yourself properly and nurture your spirit, you're going to miss it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You mentioned a client earlier where you started helping her and she was really working on herself. And then all of a sudden her business kind of took off. So I'm thinking about the role of mindset, of previous traumatic challenges that we've had in our lives. And even you talk about our past lives having a role that it plays in either the success or failure or stuckness of a business owner. So I think a lot of us are familiar with mindset. Like, okay, how you're thinking is how going to directly impact your business. I'd love to hear a little bit more also in that area of trauma that we've experienced and then past lives and how those impact our business and how you help people with that.
That's so true. So our healing and the success or failure of our business is always dependent on so many different factors. And, we can just call it energy, but it is past life experience. It's ancestral experience that we literally cellular, oh gosh, I forget the name of the people who study cells, epigenetics. Epigenetics has proven that cellular memory stays, I think it's a minimum of four generations, which is several hundred years. And that includes trauma, that includes challenges. And that means when you come into this life, 4 generations behind, all the struggle, all the challenges, everything that they've gone through is in your cells. It's embedded in your cells. It's embedded in your energy. So in addition to firstly talking to our ancestors and say, hey, I know you've been holding me back because you're trying to protect me, but look, I'm trying to break this cycle for the lineage from here on out, and this healing effect will ripple back to you. Please let me go and allow me to do this healing work. And once we start communicating with our ancestors, then we can get the support we need and like gentle nudges forward and not so much protecting a baby around the hot stove kind of reaction. Then we can begin to heal that within ourselves as well, because there is cellular memory. Again, that's been proven by science. Um,
So
there,
how do
there's,
I
go ahead.
do that? If I'm a business owner and I'm going, oh man, I'm feeling kind of stuck over here, whatever. You're saying I need to start talking to my ancestors. How would you suggest that I do that?
Okay, okay. So I can walk you guys through a little ancestral chat
Let's
right
do it.
now. So, okay, so those of you who are not driving or operating heavy machinery, close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. And as you're doing this, think about the one big challenge that's coming up for you in your business, that one block that you can't seem to get through. Maybe it's money, maybe it's clients, whatever it is, just allow that to float to the surface. And now sense, see, feel, whatever works for you, your ancestors circling around you. They're all standing around you in different time period, clothing, all ages, all backgrounds. Make eye contact with as many as you can and recognize that they do love you. And you may even take an extra moment and ask, why are you holding me back from achieving this? And you may get verbal messages or images. What experience did you have that's preventing me from moving forward now? And with gratitude, now we say to our ancestors, I'm sorry that you have suffered in that way. Please know that I wasn't there. I wasn't even alive then. I know that you are holding me back for my own protection. But it is my intention to heal this for our lineage from here on out. And as I do it, know that the healing will ripple back to you as well. I want to stop this now. And see the expression on your ancestors' faces change. And also see they've cleared a pathway now. They're no longer circling you and kind of trapping you. They're opening you up. They're allowing you to move forward. And you can request now, I ask that you please guide me in a way that is helpful for me to heal this. Give me messages, give me symbols, give me signs. Release me from your past so that we can all move forward together. And now you can feel the gentle nudges behind you, perhaps the whispering in your ears. Take a moment and feel that. And then with gratitude, we thank them. And then allow yourself to come back into this moment, in this time. And you might want to journal about it too, the information that you got. You can always go back and visit that because there's certainly a lot of experiences and information to explore in that area.
My goodness. Okay. So the moment you started this meditation,
Tell me.
the moment you started this meditation, my great grandfather came, like the whole scenario of they lived in a place called Warrior, Alabama, and it was alongside a road that was the main like highway, and they had a gas station, and my grandfather and all of his brothers worked at this gas station, and the house was right next to the gas station. And when I was a little kid, I used to go there. You know, the gas station was closed by the time I was a kid. It had been turned into a lawnmower shop because the main highway got moved from that road. They built a big, huge highway. And so the whole business of the gas station closed down. And I was from the moment you started the meditation, I felt the weight and the sorrow and the grief of that shift. That is so weird. It just came to me just like boom.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. And it's so interesting, David. Thank you for sharing that too. It's
Man.
interesting, the stuff that comes up. I mean, firstly, I want to encourage you guys when you dive into this, don't feel like you have to know all the answers and you have to know your ancestral lineage or any of that stuff. Just stay open and allow it to float in. Because what often happens is, for example, money. We'll just say I'll give some examples. If people are having a hard time with money, getting money, attracting money, etc. A lot of my lineage is coal miners, and that's a very poor community. Sometimes things with other clients that have come up around money is they've had ancestors who had lots of money and lived in castles and they felt totally trapped and miserable and they could not dictate their own lives. That's even though they had money, they didn't like it. So there's so many different ways that previous ancestral experiences can be held within us that we can actually release and ask to be let go of. I love that.
Yeah, so fascinating. Wow. I'm gonna have to have to meditate on that a little bit more. And I feel even a little emotional right now. Wow. Like
Yeah, I saw that you were, a little
yeah, I can
verklempt when you came out. Yeah.
I can feel that. Yeah, that's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so these are all tools and modalities that you're bringing to the table as you're working with people one-on-one and in your group programs. If people haven't already checked out your Instagram, I definitely would highly encourage it. I was mesmerized. There's so much content on the web and people are just blah, 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 talking about everything. I got just pulled in. Remind me, what is your Instagram handle again?
I think it's just at Iena SpiritWalker.
Okay. Well, we'll
Iena
definitely put
SpiritWalker.
that in the show notes, of
Yeah.
course, everywhere.
Yeah, it'll be in
But
the links.
one of the videos that drew me in was had the title on it, "The Sphincter Effect," and so I mean, I was locked in. And you talk about all these other things before you actually get to the sphincter effect. So I was locked in for like 2-3 minutes. So what is the sphincter effect, and when does this happen? Why is it important? Tell us.
I love you, David, for bringing this up. I was laughing so hard when I found out you were going to ask me about this. So, yes, the sphincter effect is a phrase that I have coined to attempt to explain why when you raise your prices, you are actually elevating the results that you're getting for your clients. And so the example I give is, let's say, hopefully, most of you who are listening have invested in yourself and gotten some sort of high ticket offer or coaching or something. So what happens in those moments when you're signing up? It's a stretch for you. It's a stretch. It's not completely impossible. You don't have to sell your house or anything, but it's a stretch. And you're typing in, you feel really called, and you know this person or this program is going to help you move. You can feel that in your soul, but it's a stretch financially. So you're plugging in your credit card numbers and slowly you hit purchase. And the moment you do that, the sphincter tightens up and you're like, and what happens in that point is, I am all in. I am all in. I am going to make this shit work. And every time there is a course, there's a recording, there's homework, you're doing extra credit because it has been a stretch. You are 150% in and you are doing it. And that is really, then your clients get amazing results, right? And it sounds very weird. Some people have a hard time understanding this. But when you do it, and if you've been on the other side, like I've been on the other side, I've had the sphincter effect several times, and you better bet I've watched that shit several times. And I was like in all the extra things, and I'm asking questions, and I'm in the Facebook group, and I got awesome results. That reflects positively on your offer because people only have amazing things to say. When you don't have, as I said, the right price for your offer, again, you're going to attract the wrong people. You're going to attract people who don't do the work. You're going to attract people who don't even show up. Before I had my prices properly aligned, I had one woman when I was doing private coaching. We were on a Zoom call and she was like cleaning her kitchen.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, what is happening? That had never happened to me before. I was like, whoa, something is really wrong. And, obviously we dissolved that relationship, but I knew it was a reflection of me. I was not judging her. I was very clear it was something that was not cool with me, but that's what happens. And that is the power of the pricing. And wouldn't it be amazing for you guys to be able to just have enough financial compensation, energetic alignment, so that you're not hustling, so that you're not stressed, which allows you to be the best version of yourself and serve your clients in a higher way than you ever could.
Hmm. You've mentioned about investing in ourselves. Why is it so important to invest in yourself as a conscious leader, healer, or coach? Not just to get the certification or learn something, but to really invest at a high level. Why is that important?
Right. Well, firstly, okay, if we're going to be a leader, we're going to help others. It's important for us to really keep evolving. That's important because if you're not growing, you're not going to help other people move the needle because things change quickly. But the big picture is energetically, that's in your energy field, and you are not going to attract anyone to invest in you more than you have invested in yourself. So, for example, if I've only spent $200 on a course and I'm trying to sell a $10,000 group coaching program, no one's going to buy it. And it's not that they know, quote unquote, know what I have or have not, but energetically, we can feel that. We know there's some sort of disconnect, and we're not going to really feel like we're all in. So when you are saying, I have this amazing offer, and here is the opportunity, it starts at this price, you can say that with confidence because you know that you've done the same for yourself and it has made an amazing difference.
Hmm. It's so interesting hearing you talk about this because I've heard, other people say this. And before I had invested significantly in myself, I'd be like, I don't know, if that's like really true, maybe they're just saying that because they want people to buy into their
True.
program,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's back
Sure.
to the skepticism. And then my first big investment, I bought into a $12,000 coaching program and it ended up being a bust for me personally. The person was
Mm-hmm.
using white labeled content that somebody else
Oh,
had created and they were doing some live things, but it wasn't their content. It was
terrible.
white labeled from somebody else.
Ugh.
And I complained about it and I brought it to their attention, like, hey, I thought this was going to be da 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 da. And they said, no, it's high quality content. And I said, hey, I'd really, I don't want to participate in this. And they said, you signed a contract. And so I was in a position where I thought, I could cancel that credit card and not make the monthly payments and opt out, which then they would probably, they're in another state. Could they then come after me? And
Ugh.
I knew from me, just because I really value my word so much that I go, that's not in alignment with, like, I did sign the contract. I did pay this, I did agree to this. And so
Yeah.
I made those $1,000 payments for another 9 months. Another nine
Mm-hmm.
months, I made those $1,000 payments and didn't participate because it didn't, it was a great
Right.
learn. It was a great learning for me. It was a great learning.
Yeah.
And I
Mm-hmm.
also learned one of the biggest things I learned was, wow, okay, I don't want to treat other people the way that I feel like I'm being treated now. Right.
Truth. Mm-hmm.
Then I signed up year and a half, 2 years ago in another $12,000 program that was more of a paid upfront situation. And I got an incredible amount of value
Awesome.
and it transformed and has multiplied, my own resources. But I say all of that to go, I totally resonate now having invested in myself with what you're
Right.
saying, because I can with
Mm-hmm.
confidence provide an offer to someone because I know the value that I bring and I know what I've invested in myself. And anyway, I just appreciate,
Yes.
I want to echo what you're saying, that you're not
That's
saying
super
that because
true.
you want
Yeah.
people to invest in your programs.
Right.
It is
Right.
so true.
Yeah. I appreciate that. And thank you for bringing that. And unfortunately I do meet some people who have had negative experiences with high ticket. And I hate to say it, you guys, but it doesn't matter what profession people are in. Some people aren't heart led. And my opinion is whether you have a refund policy or not, if someone says, "Hey, can I have my money back?" you should give them your money back because obviously that's going to reflect back on you. But again, lesson learned, right? And that's something that we need to heal from, and a reminder. And also, gold stars to you, David, for jumping in and doing it again, because that gave you the opportunity to grow. And it could be something like, I burned my hand on this stove. I'm never using the stove again. Well, no, there's some really cool stuff you can do with the stove. You just have to be more cautious and perhaps maybe settle in a bit more and learn some more stuff before you jump in again. That's all.
Yes.
Yes.
So I want to hear about how you work with people one-on-one. Are those one-off sessions? Do you have, multi-month kind of package, or how does that work? And then I also want to hear about your 6-month course called the Sacred Success Shift. I got to say that 3 times fast. The Sacred
I know. I
Sacred
love my
Success Shift.
alliteration, but I love my alliteration, but man, it can be a tongue twister sometimes. So I work, as we said, I work with women who are spiritual or holistic entrepreneurs who are ready. You're feeling stuck, you're going to that next level. And I offer 2 different options. We can do private one-on-one, or we can do the group coaching, which is the Sacred Success Shift. They're both 6-month opportunities. You have the option to continue beyond those 6 months, which many people do. I have some people that have been with me over 2 years. And it really is just a matter of what is the best fit for you. And that's why I encourage people to have a chat with me, because some people love the group thing. Some people don't love the group thing. Some people maybe have already done some of the work. And are really interested in expanding in a different way. And I also, a lot of women that I meet, they say, "Oh, I've done the mindset, or I've done this," but the problem is they haven't integrated it with the other parts of who we are. That spiritual being in the meat sack. So it's like, well, I did this, a year ago, and okay, well, you're a different person a year ago, and you didn't integrate it with everything else, and that's why it's not working. So there's wonderful opportunities. And both of those situations, whether it's one-on-one with me or in the group session, what we do is I give you it's called the paradigm shift healing. So that's where I do the deep dive healing. I extract your soul aligned offer, and we just workshop what price point and all those things that your spirit is being called to do. And then we have that goalpost, as I said. We heal what's holding you back. Call in those soul-aligned clients, clear your money blocks, and create that next level high-ticket offer, whatever that is for you. It's different for everybody.
And the Sacred Success Shift, can people start that group anytime, or does it have a specific start and specific end?
It's a rolling enrollment, so people
Okay,
can
cool.
start whenever they want. I have pre-recorded modules, and then also I have 2 days a week where there's live group calls via Zoom, so people can ask questions. And there's also one of them is just like a group hangout, and we have tea and coffee and just talk about our challenges and celebrate our wins.
Nice.
Because that's missing, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Woo!
One last question. Well, of course, where can people find you and connect with you for these things? What's the best place for people to connect with you?
Oh gosh, there's so many ways, you guys. My website, IenaSpiritWalker.com. You can always find me on Instagram or Facebook as well. Feel free to private message me or reach out in any way you feel compelled.
Good. Okay, one final question for you.
What you got?
What is a message that you sense the universe is calling you to share right now in this season of life?
Oh, dang. Okay. Oh, let me do a quick channel. Let's see what we get. To all the sisters who are feeling stuck and lost and feeling that urge, that nudge, that sense of knowing that's beginning to rise, but not quite allowing itself to be known. It's time for you to step into that truest, biggest version of yourself. It is time to rise together as women. And in doing so, we all can create the magnetic web of healing across the planet. It's
Beautiful.
time, my lovelies. Let's do it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Iena, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your heart and your story. I just love your presence. And so thank you for what you're doing in the world. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for bringing a bright, shiny light on this planet, David. I appreciate you and your audience so much. Thanks for spending time with me today.
Thanks for listening to the Awaken Magazine podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and our other conversations, would you mind taking a moment to leave a 5-star review and maybe even a comment on Spotify or Apple Podcasts? That's one of the ways that you can give back to the show and help us reach more people. And of course, feel free to share the episode with a friend. And if you're not already on our email list, we send out an inspiring email every Monday morning full of articles and interviews. Just head on over to awakenedmagazine.com and click subscribe and join for free. Our hope is that all the resources we share will help our world continue awakening to love.